This video started out being a review of the Hangar 9 floats. Plus, this is the first time I'd flown off the water. And things seemed to be going real good. The Valiant was flying as good as it ever does, and the Hangar 9 floats weren't doing anything to the flight characteristics of the plane. I was doing some touch and goes and approaches, getting a feel of landing on floats. And the whole time I was flying, I was watching the plane real close because I didn't know if the floats would have an influence on it. But everything was going fine, the wind was even cooperating, and we had a real nice day for this. It was real early, but I should have ended my day right here. Because what happens after this is the whole reason we're doing this story. I had taken off and the plane climbed out with no problems. There was some traffic below me. I think they were going to land, so I stayed up higher. Everything was fine as I made 1 or 2 circles around the field. And then this happened. It went from a fun afternoon to me not having any control whatsoever. I may have been getting some signal through every now and then because some people at the end of the flight line said they could hear the motor going up and down, and that was probably me on the kill button. Thankfully it went down in the field away from the people and property. I blew up the frame where all this started and could see that the rudder is hard right. Here I slowed the video down a bunch. You still really can't see what all the plane is doing. And at this point I was fighting for control, trying to get the plane to go the other way, at least away from the people. So whatever we're seeing could be partially me too. One of the guys from the Smith Lake Flyers Club that was putting this float fly on gave me a ride in his Jeep out to find my plane. It wasn't really that far away, but we'd have to walk around the whole lake to get to it. The Valiant was actually sitting upright in the field, but it had landed flat on the float, so it killed them, the tail snapped off, and the nose snapped off, and both of those looked like it was from the momentum of the plane falling straight down. The airframe is history, but the motor, prop, even the spinner, none of it's got a mark on it. And the part of the fuse where all the electronics lives was untouched. But something had gone wrong with the radio because this plane had never twitched on me, and I got a lot of time on it. Back in the shop, it was time to start cutting this plane up so I can get at the electronics. Because I'm not worried about the fuselage anymore, I'm going to cut this up so I can leave the electronics pretty much intact so I can put them on the bench and start testing things. My wife got me a bunch of these plastic tubs from someplace, but they come in great for putting all the stuff from a plane into to keep it all together. I want to test this system as intact as I can, so I just cut the covering out from around the satellite receivers. I use large side cutters to cut the airframe away from around the platform where all the electronics is. The switch is an important piece to test, so I want to make sure that comes out easily as well. I take my time cutting all this stuff free to make sure I don't chop any wires by accident. Before long I had it cut down where it's easy to work with, but I have all the electronics still in place as they were in flight. The first thing I noticed when I started looking this over is this one satellite cable's in bad shape. I wiggled this wire with all the power on and it never did interfere with the radio. Regardless, it gets replaced. As soon as I turned the radio on, I saw a big problem. Notice the far left servo in that row of 3 isn't moving. No matter where I position that arm when I turn the radio on, it drives it to that position and freezes there. And that servo's for the left half of the elevator. Another thing I like to do is to check the receiver to see how it responds to vibration. I just hold the sander against the airframe, and that's more vibration than this plane's ever seen. And nothing twitches. At this point, it doesn't matter what the receiver does anymore because I'm throwing that out. I never fly a crashed receiver, especially if one's questionable. In this case, I'm reasonably sure that the receiver was having an issue anyway, so it's a goner. I did go through and check both of the battery packs, and both of those were well over 90% of capacity left in them. The Valiant's very easy on the receiver batteries. I use a pair of 5,000 milliamp LiPos, so that 9,000 or so milliamps I was left should have powered the airplane just fine. I'm going to be doing a review of this high-tech servo programmer and tester. This is the servo that was plugged into aux2 and you can see that the servo is just fine. As I strip the electronics down, all of the servos will go on this machine just to make sure. So I think what I need is a new receiver. New airplane wouldn't hurt nothing either. But one way or another, I'm going to get back on floats because I was having a good time before my plane died. Everybody say, oh, woe is Tom.